Good morning, Trisha. How are you?
Good morning, Jen. I am great. Happy Friday. Happy first day of October.
Yes, absolutely. And happy, celebration to some degree for you for your book launch. And so before we kind of dive into that, just a reminder that I am Jen Grace. I'm the founder of Publisher Purpose, and this is just a conversation with an author. And I don't even know how to, because it's like you're the creator but not the author, and so we can certainly get into that. But can we just kind of start, just kind of high level of a little bit about who you, Trisha, are?
Sure. I am Trisha Hyacinth, born and raised in New York. I spent the bulk of my life, however, in Connecticut, and where I raised my family. My daughters, Amber and Diamond, are identical twins. And I am I operate in the world of for a long time in philanthropy, the nonprofit sector, and I'm certainly just driven by wanting to make a difference in this world in every possible way that I can. Recognizing that I have talents and treasure and so forth, and I want to be able to share that with my community and the world if possible.
That's so good. That's so good. And we have a mutual friend, which is how we came to be, in Eileen Scully, who's also a PYP author. And so it's been such a fun experience, which is no surprise when Eileen's kind of that conduit between us.
She has been an absolute godsend. I honestly did not know even when the idea to bring forth Amber's work, I didn't know where to start. It's like, do you open the yellow pages? Do you, just randomly Google nearby publisher? I just didn't
Yeah.
know where to start, and having her just kind of guide me and point me towards you was something that I'm truly grateful for.
Yeah, yeah. And so I feel like there's a lot to unpack with what you've done in this book. And so can we, I guess, maybe start at that point of you acknowledging that you wanted to bring Amber's work forward, because there must have been some kind of moment where you felt so compelled and so called to kind of honor her legacy. So I'm kind of curious what that, like, where that happened for you.
Sure. And so Amber passed away 2 years and now 15 days ago. And so it was really the first year anniversary where I immersed myself in her writings. She loved to write poetry. She actually was a blogger. She loved creative writing. She loved to express herself through her words. Oftentimes she would write and just crumple up the pages. She just, it was a vehicle for her to express herself. And so during the first year, or actually during the first year anniversary of her death, I found myself reading one of her journals. The name of it was, at the time, it was called Middle School Blues, because it was really all about her middle school experiences, her ups and her downs. And so while reading that work, I recognized that I kind of was feeling a full range of emotions, from joy to sadness to you name it, I felt it. And I thought she did such a beautiful job articulating her experience as a middle schooler that certainly other middle schoolers or middle grade students would benefit from reading her writing. Um, and you know, I wanted to do something that would certainly surprise and shock her. I do think when she wrote, this journal back when she was between the ages of 12 and 14, maybe she had an inkling that one day this would be published, because if you read the book, you'll see that she uses the term reader, a few times in there, obviously thinking that one day someone would see, her inner thoughts that's in this composition notebook. And so I felt that it was really my responsibility to find a way to honor my daughter who oftentimes felt invisible and unheard and unseen, to to now make her seen, make her heard, even if it's just a portion of her life, a snapshot in time. It's her words, the way she wrote them, the way she thought them, unadulterated for everyone to consume. And honestly, I just think that there's just so much in there, whether you are a child, a rising middle schooler, whether you're in middle school, high school, whether you're a parent, teacher. I think that there's just so much in here about, navigating life, from that perspective, as a middle schooler. Obviously, all of the things that are top of mind for girls that age, and I felt like this was a way to introduce my daughter to the world, and for her, through this book, The Colors I Am, to be able to outlive me and all of us, frankly. Just having the book, her life was, she lived a short life. She died at the age of 24. And so just having something that would exist out there in the world forever was just the only way, honestly, I knew how to really, truly honor her.
There's something just so there's been something so beautiful about this entire process working with you to get this done. And I know I would love to ask you to kind of share just a little bit more about her, because I feel like I have gotten little snippets of like what a dynamic human being she was. And just by the name of the book, just the way that colors in particular
Mm-hmm.
is written, I know that kind of feeds into a little bit about her, I would say, quirky personality on that front at the very least. So, can you just
Mm-hmm.
kind of share a little bit about her and then a little bit about kind of the origin of how this title even came to be?
Sure. So Amber was certainly very cultured, very intelligent, and you used the word quirky. I think back to something that um, someone said about her recently, and they described her as quirky but delightful, and that was Amber. She had a very infectious laugh, um, and she was just beautiful inside and out. Beautiful inside and out. And so she, from a very young age, she just gravitated towards British English, all things related to England. And I think it might stem from the fact that her her ancestors on her father's side come from England. And they also are from Jamaica, and Jamaica was colonized by England. And she had this real passion for genealogy. She wanted to dig in and learn more about her ancestors, about where she came from, because obviously you don't know who you are unless you know where you've come from. And so it was really doing this exploration, and then also having access to Encarta over the years, which is like an online encyclopedia. She would just spend a lot of time immersing herself in various cultures, but really in the English culture. And so as a child, she adopted this British English spelling of words. And, she would get into oftentimes into squabbles with teachers over, spelling words, particularly words that end in OR, on spelling tests, with, injecting a U. So it's OUR, and, as a tribute to the English. And so she really truly just gravitated to the culture, to the country, because of her origins, and inserted, British English wherever she could. And so when she was in 7th grade, she wrote a poem called The Colors I Am. And the poem reads: when I'm pink, I'm energetic, lively, playful. When I'm orange, I'm lazy and selfish. When I'm gray, I'm sad and lonely. All these traits make me, but however, I'm feeling pink today. And so she alludes to color in the poem. This was something that she wrote again, when she was in 7th grade. So that's, you're talking about 12 years old. And it just seems so fitting for it to become the title of the book. Obviously, being sure to incorporate that U, to reflect her her keen interest in the spelling of the British English spelling.
I've just from the start of this project working together, I just found it so adorable and fascinating to think of like a 12-year-old who was like so into British English. And I love that, we were able to title the book the way that we did. And even just and I put the cover back up just to kind of show the emphasis on the you, to just kind of show
Mm-hmm.
that throughout this whole process, like you really kind of just embraced. And what I think is something that was very beautiful about how you approached this too was making sure that you kept her words intact to the to as much as humanly possible. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure from an editor standpoint, I'm sure some of the editors were like, oh, we could do it this way, or you might want to do this, and you're like, nope, we need to preserve it exactly as is. And I think that that's very just respectful, because you know because I know we had conversations where you're like, these are not my words, like these are her words, and so how do we find that balance of like not tampering with anything in particular? Did you find that you
Mm-hmm.
struggled through that at all as we were kind of going through that phase of the process?
I think it was absolutely a struggle. And again, this was a journal that she had written. There were no delineations in this journal. There were no chapters, no chapter names. And so, obviously taking she wrote and then carving it into sections and ensuring that it made sense and it was chronological and so forth. I think it was certainly a challenge, and I really do appreciate working with the editors who respected, the most important thing, which was preserving her voice. Because I think that can certainly be lost in the editing process, but it was certainly preserved. And so it was hard to not only take her work and, for example, there were some instances where something in the back may have flowed better if it was in the front. I was amenable to those kinds of changes if it would help the reader to be able to follow along, but not making any other types of changes, or changes that again would potentially impact her voice. And I think one of the challenging things for me was, as the journal was then carved into chapters, and then working with the editor and hearing, well, not a lot, but some of the chapters don't have natural transitions, and so it ends abruptly. And so I had to grapple with, well, do I want it to end abruptly? Is it okay if there is one sentence that's inserted at the end of a chapter that will help with the continuity piece? And so I had to struggle with those things, and luckily, I didn't have to do that with every single chapter, but there were some where, for easeability, or with to reading, I did have to write a sentence, and I wanted to be clear with the editor about how I insert myself in this, because I didn't in any way, shape, or form want to tamper with it. And then, at the very end, there was no natural conclusion to the book, and so I actually found a writing, or an essay that Amber had written when she was in high school, and took that essay, or that paragraph rather, and had the editor mesh it with the book, so that there was more of a conclusion there. And then the editor said, well, there is no overall, or like there is no synopsis, or as you come to the end, there is no natural conclusion. And so one way was obviously taking works, or taking a paragraph again from what she had written as an older student, and then as a parent, writing what I thought was the key takeaway, but ensuring that my writing was italicized, and that Amber's mom was under it, so that folks knew that this was me speaking and not her speaking. So it was quite the process in terms of just wanting to make sure in everything that I do that I am honoring and preserving her work and her voice to the best of my ability.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, and the other thing that it makes me think is also the illustration process too, because I
Mm-hmm.
know that that was kind of a process finding the right approach. But then I think the ultimate end goal that of working with someone in your family kind of worked out. So do you want to share a little bit about that too? Because I feel like the illustrations are just enough to add like a little additional color to everything.
Sure. And firstly, I want to just say that the cover, I really appreciate all of the players in the PYP ecosystem, because I do think that um, when I initially saw this cover, I was doing some work, and I saw the cover, and then I had to stop doing the work because I was just so emotional after seeing it. It was such a stunning cover, and what I realized is that the illustrator heard me, because we had played with having a fictitious character on the cover, but that just didn't feel right, given that this was more of a biography, and so it just felt in conflict. I'm just very pleased about the cover, and where we landed with that, and it was really your guidance, Jen, in terms of ending up working with my niece on the interior illustrations. Your guidance about it would be really nice to have someone who had a connection to Amber do the illustrations versus someone who didn't. And so I really appreciated working with my 13-year-old niece throughout this process. And the beautiful thing about it is she can't believe. It's so funny because I don't think that if Amber were here, Amber would be saying, really? My book has been published? I'm an author? Really? And I think the same is true of my niece. The fact that she's got something that, you know, that not every 13-year-old can say that they have. And I'm just so proud of her, and so happy that there was a connection, and that it wasn't a random illustrator. Initially, we had thought about having a friend of Amber's do it, but I think it worked out the way it should have worked out, and I'm happy with that.
I think so. And I thought that too. Like it's just such a cool thing for a 13-year-old to be able to say that, and because it very clearly lists her as the illustrator inside the book. And so that's, those are credentials, if you will, that she can take on for the rest of her life. And that's something just so cool. Because I feel like every step, and with all books, there's a lot of strategy that kind of goes into them. But I feel like with
Mm-hmm.
your book in particular, with Amber's story in particular, there's so many more areas to pay attention to that very fine detail to make sure that everything was exactly how it should be, to make sure that she's being honored
Mm-hmm.
in the most amazing and best way possible. So, it's just little details
Absolutely.
like that I feel like really make all the difference in the world.
Yes. And it's certainly something she'll be able to add to her college essay, or sorry, college application when she's ready to apply.
Yeah. Absolutely, and especially because when the book released, and it was immediately a number one, a new release, and so I feel like that speaks volumes, to me anyway, of
Mm-hmm.
just the community of people that you have surrounding you, and obviously surrounding Amber and just your whole family to just kind of show up and say like we have to get this book immediately. So we were all very thrilled to kind of see that like right out of the gate it was a new release.
And it actually, yeah, I'm very pleased by that, and just the response overall, and all the positivity that has, all the positive words and so forth that we've heard. People who have read it, how they're going to use it. The thought just dawned on me. I was thinking about my niece again, and thinking that she was 13 years old when she did this. And so thinking about Amber was between the ages of 12 and 14 years old when she wrote the book. And I just think that it's at that particular age, we know girls struggle with their confidence, with their esteem. And I think it's just such an esteem booster, for her to be able to have her work, not just connected to a family member, but shared so broadly with others. And so it's just, I'm just putting it all together, and realizing how special it all is. And and truly grateful again for the book being a #1 release shortly after. It's been 15 days, and I hope that continues to be #1, a #1 release, and that's on just on Amazon, and I know that other online retailers are carrying it as well, and so just really pleased to watch this all unfold. I didn't really know what to expect, and everything has just been honestly a blessing, and I'm just trying to sit with it and take it all in. So.
Yeah, it's still so new.
Mhm.
And and so for those who are kind of watching either now while we're live or they're watching after the fact, the book's available wherever you can buy a book, just go out and get it. But I also want to take a moment to kind of acknowledge where proceeds are going for the sale of this book. So if you want to just kind of share the organizations that you that are near and dear to you and why, that'd be fantastic.
I think it's important before I do that, Jen, to just say that the book is dedicated to all Black girls who have ever questioned their fit, worth, identity, and or struggle to live up to unrealistic expectations. And I think it's important for folks to know that before I share where proceeds um, will go. And so there are two organizations that will benefit from the sale of this book. And those two organizations are the Girl Scouts of Connecticut and Loveland Foundation. So Amber was a Girl Scout. She did have the most awesome experience as a camper when she was 16 years old at a property in Laurel that the Girl Scouts of Connecticut owns. And so it was such a wonderful experience in terms of learning more about who she was, her identity, making friends, and having friendships come out of that experience. That it's something that she wrote about, and I know left an indelible impression on her. And so I'm grateful to the Girl Scouts of Connecticut for making that sort of experience available to her. So they're an organization that will benefit. And then Loveland Foundation is an organization that provides financial assistance specifically to Black women and girls around the country who are seeking therapy. We know oftentimes that finances are a barrier to therapy, and we want to be able to the best of our ability, ensure that if a Black girl or woman is in need of support, that they're able to access it without having to worry about finances. So those are the two organizations that will benefit from the sales of the book.
So beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you were to wave a magic wand and a year from now you have a young girl or a parent or someone in your life who is saying, or someone that you don't know that's saying that they read this book, what are you hoping that the impact on that particular person who read it will be?
That they're not alone. And while that while they may struggle today, hopefully that necessarily won't be the case tomorrow, for them to be as hopeful and optimistic as possible, and recognizing that life ebbs and it flows, right? And just because things today may not be great doesn't mean that tomorrow can't be. And so I'm just hoping that girls, if they read it, they're able to connect with Amber, and just realize that change is the only constant, right? That's the only thing that we can expect, and we should expect for it, and we have to do our best in terms of just adapting to change, and just ebbing and flowing through life. So that's what I hope.
So
Mm-hmm.
are there any final things that you want to mention or say? I know that Amber's sitting on the desk next to you, her beautiful photo, which I love so much. The fact that it's sisters in between, like, it's just, I love that, like, just her presence is with us during this whole conversation. But are there any other things that you want to mention before we conclude?
I just want to thank you again for all your guidance. It's been a beautiful journey. It's been a 6-month long journey, and I'm really happy with where we are. And I was in particular very pleased that we were able to release the book on the 2nd anniversary of her death. So all that transpired behind the scenes to make that possible, I'm grateful for. I'm grateful for your leadership and everyone in the ecosystem who really was supportive, caring, and just did an excellent job with their specific part that just, in the aggregate led to this beautiful product. So thank you.
You are very, very welcome. So once again, if anyone would like to get the book, it's called The Color As I Am, with the British English spelling of color, and it's available wherever you can buy a book. It's available. And I know, Trisha, that you just recently set up a Facebook page for the book as well. So if you just go to Facebook and type in the title of the book, you'll have access to the Facebook page. And we encourage you to like, because we want to continue to kind of support and honor Amber's legacy, and that is a very simple way for us to all do that.
And I will just add that her twin sister, Diamond, is the one who manages that Facebook page. So
spread the love, read the book, post on the page, leave a review on Amazon of, how the book has impacted you and whatnot.
For sure, so good. For sure. What a gift. Thank you for the... Yes, thank you, Jen. Thank you so much.
Very